Hi, I'm Duke Jenkel, P.A.A. Touring Pro, and today we're going to talk a little bit about fishing some high water, muddy water conditions. At the time that we are actually going to shoot this video, the lakes in my area, we've experienced an incredible amount of rainfall, so the lakes are up, the water's dirty, and it's springtime. So we're going to be basically fishing a pre-spawn, spawn seasonal pattern. We're going to be looking at a lot of flooded buckbrush, willow trees, lay down logs, and that type of stuff. Like I said, the seasonal pattern that's taking place, the fish are shallow. So that's where we're going to look, and we're going to talk about a couple things that you can use anytime that you encounter these situations to catch more fish. One of the baits I like to use during that conditions, and as you see behind me, you can see the flooded buckbrush, and we'll talk about that more as we go on today. But one of the baits I like to use is a Texas rigged Zoom brush hog. Due to the dirty water conditions, I'm going to use a dark colored bait, a black with blue flake, a black with red flake. Either one of those will do the trick. But that's the full size brush hog. It's Texas rigged on a 4/0 straight shank hook, and I've got a 5/16 or a 3/8 will also work sized weight. And you want to fish that on 20-pound line. I'm using 20-pound Maxima. Another bait we're going to use is a black and blue jig. This happens to be a lunker lure body lock jig. I personally like this jig. It comes with a good hook. Sometimes, and it doesn't always have to be this way, there are a lot of jigs on the market, but you want to make sure of two things. It's got a good hook. This is a round bend Gamakatsu, sharp, strong. It's got a good weed guard, and the head design comes through the cover that you're trying to put it into. When you get one out of the package, one very important thing is to trim up the skirt, and I'll show you the finished product here in a second. But that's a lunker lure body lock, 3/8 ounce. Two trailers I'm going to use today, and really it can boil down to personal preference for a lot of folks, but one thing you want to think about is that you've got to pay attention to what the fish tell you. I've got two trailers. One is a Zoom Super Chunk. That's in sapphire blue. Again, we're dealing with some pretty dirty water. It's muddy water. It's high. Visibility is not the best. That's definitely one of the trailers I want to use. The other trailer that I'm talking about is a a net bait P.A.A. chunk. And that bait has some pretty unique characteristics. The wide paddles are the pinchers, really move in the water well. When you pull the bait through the water, they vibrate, they move a lot of water, they have a lot of action, and that is also in sapphire blue. But one of the benefits to that moving bait, or the tails that really have a lot of action, puts off a good vibration. And in muddy water, fish they're not visual. You know, they're using their lateral line to pick up on the movement, some scent, but it's mostly movement. So you want a bait that's going to move a lot of water. That's why big and bulky baits tend to work best in muddy water. But you take your P.A.A. chunk or your Zoom Super Chunk, thread it on. One cool feature to the body lock, and I don't know if you can see this, is it has two little keepers. So there's no super glue. Don't worry with it. It's not going to pull down. When you thread that on there, it's there to stay. No glue. Now granted, you catch a couple fish, it's probably going to tear your trailer up, but that's all right. While you're doing what you want to do, which is fish and try to locate and catch fish, it's going to stay right where you put it. Last thing you want to do, turn your jig upside down and cut it to about the bottom of the hook bend. We'll just put a package right here, turn the jig upside down, find about what length we want, and just trim it. Now we've got us a little black and blue. We got a wild one here. Let's get him cut. We've got a black and blue jig, skirts flared nice. P.A.A. chunk trailer, sapphire blue, lunker lure body lock. And that's going to be a bait we're going to put in a lot of bushes today. And I think what you'll find is between the jig and the brush hog, we're going to generate a few bites, and they definitely one of the best baits you can use in a high muddy water situation. There's a good little lay down. Yeah. Sometimes it's weird. You would think they would be in all the flooded little bushes. And you flip them and flip them and flip them, and you come to one little log. Boom. It's just, sometimes it's the special of the day type deal, you know, for whatever the reason. They decide they don't want one of the 100 flooded bushes. You know, obviously when you pitch in there, you want your bait to go in just quiet as you can, but sometimes when you're forced to put it into oddball places where you don't have a really good, clean path, you know, it's better to get a bait in somewhere and make a little more splash than just to pass up on trying to put it in there anyway. So, and so, amazingly enough, sometimes it doesn't matter. It's always best to try to put your bait in there as quiet as possible, but a lot of times it's you make a bad cast or make a cast that splashes a little more than you wanted it to, and oop, one grabs it. There you go. Uh-oh. I think we've ran into a few. Man, they are eating that dude. There's another one. Nice little chunk. Little male. Essentially, when you come into a neck or a creek arm and you start working your way back, or you just actually are looking at the lake in general, when you come to a row of bushes, you know, and like I said, we're dealing with this high water, flooded bushes. You want to look for any irregularities, whether it's an isolated bush, a bush that sticks out a little further than the row of bushes that you just idled down or you're getting ready to work down. You want to look for gaps in the bushes. You have a long row of bushes, and here's a 3-foot path that cuts through those bushes. You want to hit those corners of that path. Point bushes is a term that we use a lot, and it's where the bushes actually make a point, just like land does on a regular lake. It's where those bushes make a point. Those are key areas. Isolated bushes, point bushes, and any gaps in the row of bushes. Golly. He took my tails. Dirty rat. I'll tell you what I think I'm gonna try. There's another company makes a real good trailer, and that is a net bait, P.A.A. chunk, and it now it has more action. It's a real wild wobbler. Them little those little paddles, the paddle arms, or the tails, whatever you want to call it, the crawl pinchers, boy, they really move. And you know, that's something again we discussed just a little bit, is in dirty water, that fish finds that bait by sound and by how much water it moves, because it can't see. You know, it relies on its lateral line, and I guess you could say sense of smell to an extent. But when you get a trailer on there that really moves, like this P.A.A. chunk, it's going to move a lot of water. It's going to make vibrations, and it's going to well, hopefully it's going to get you more bites. Willow trees can just be fantastic, and I don't understand why. I don't know if they spawn on some of the root systems, but there are times that they just get strictly on the willows, and man, it's automatic. You can go through 20 bushes and come to one willow tree and flip in there, and one smacks it. You know, one thing you want to think about, especially when you're flipping these bushes, here with really dirty water, high and dirty water, boat control isn't as critical. It's critical, but it's not as critical as if the water was extremely clear. But you don't want to crowd the bushes. Stay back a long flip, you know, a moderate pitch distance. There's really no sense adding any pressure to these fish if you don't have to. And it's not that you can't catch one or won't ever catch one, you know, up close to them. It's just, there's a good one. Looky there. That's what we've been looking for all day. See, that happens to be a lunker little body lock jig. And it, let's see if we can get a little closer here. Bit it, flipped in that bush, there went my line. Pinned right in the roof of the mouth. The body lock jig, and we'll talk about it in detail before we end the day, is it's got a good hook in it. It's just a little bit smaller profile bait. Man, that one inhaled it. There we go. Nice one.